3 years ago, I made what a lot of people would call the worst financial decision of my life. I spent £81,966 on this, a Porsche Taycan 4S Sport Turismo. Today, some 3 years on, it's worth, according to We Buy Any Car, £41,150. So on paper, I've lost nearly 41 grand in 3 years. If you ask me right now, would I do it again? The answer might surprise you. So this video is mainly about why I would make that choice again and spend all of that cash on the car, but also how much it's actually cost me and how I tried to mitigate the financial damage that purchase cost me. So why did I buy it, right? Well, I've loved cars my whole life. I had a dream that I would buy a Porsche before I was 40. So it wasn't quite a midlife crisis, hopefully. It's the thing that I've wanted to do for a number of years. But I'm also, quite financially savvy. And I wanted to buy a car that I felt wasn't going to be absolutely ruinous to run. It had a warranty. Yes, obviously depreciation is going to hit hard, but I'll talk about that in a second. And a couple of years ago, my side hustle, I was still working full time when I bought the car, but my side hustle was generating incredible revenue, well beyond what I ever expected. And for the first time, really, that dream car wasn't a fantasy. It was something I could quite comfortably do. So I decided to do it. It wasn't an impulse. I don't make many impulse decisions. I researched for months. The list price of the car was actually over £108,000, as you'll see from the invoice. And I purchased the car for just under 82. So I actually saved 27 grand off the price of the car. That wasn't a pre-reg, it wasn't a used car, it was brand new. I was the first owner. I managed to shop around and pretty much speak to every Porsche dealer in the country to get a deal. And I so managed to get this particular car, which had the spec that I wanted. It was the right model, etc. And I saved just under 27 grand on the list price. What's wild is a lot of people will have paid list price for this car. And not much longer before, people were actually paying over list price for these cars, which is absolutely crazy. But I also bought it through my company, and I'll talk about the advantages of doing that. But I paid cash through the company, so there's no finance, no interest. Porsche were actually wanting some 10.9% interest on any finance agreement that I took out with them. And it cost me £7 to charge. Servicing is every 2 years, and it's relatively cheap because there's not that many moving parts. Here's a quick video which I'll insert, or a quick image I'll insert on the day that I collected it, where I went to Preston with my dad. And it was absolutely brilliant. It'll be a memory that I'll have forever and remember picking it up with my dad. But reality did hit. What I didn't see coming is how the EV market did fall off a cliff. Yes, depreciation was heavy, but luxury electric cars in particular got hit very hard. Every month the car was losing, thousands of pounds, which was scary to see. And like I said, We Buy Any Car now value this at £41,150. So it's lost 41 grand. That's over £1,000 a month in depreciation from the price I paid, just under 82. Significantly more if you factor in the £27,000 that I saved. If you do factor that in, you're looking at some £68,000 has been lost off the list price of that car. Absolutely nuts when you consider some people paid more than list as well. Now, the reason that I researched this and was comfortable making the decision was because a lot of the benefits I got buying it through my company. Some of you may be aware there's a lot of financial incentives to buy brand new electric cars through your company. I won't get into these in too much detail because I'm not an accountant. I don't want to give any advice, but effectively it offset the corporation tax that I pay. So like I said, I bought the car through the company, which has significant tax implications. There was no corporation tax, which is 25% or 19% at the time, depending on the profits of the company. It also, I bought the car at source, so before paying income tax. Any car I'd bought prior to that was out of my own money. So, I'd paid income tax beforehand. This wasn't, it was bought through the company's money. So there was significant benefits of doing that, which I felt more comfortable with. And as I said, it's relatively cheap to run. £7 to charge for a full charge, which will do about 250 miles. The only thing really, servicing is relatively reasonable. The only thing that's pretty expensive is tyres. They're about £350 a tyre. But there's three ways to look at that. One is the money that I've lost in the depreciation, like I said, just over 41 grand. But the other thing that I look at is the loss of opportunity with that cash. having that money in the car meant I couldn't do anything else with it, namely invest. And there's two things I could have done to invest. I could have paid corporation tax and then paid myself through the company, which I would have paid income tax on. So as I said, I was already a high rate taxpayer then, so I would have probably ended up with 60 pence out of the pound, which I could have invested. So that £80,000, quick maths, would have probably been something like £48,000 that I would have had to invest. Or I could have invested the money through the company and kept it within the company and actually took it out. But again, I would have had to pay corporation tax. But that is one of the significant things that I did look at, the opportunity cost that I've lost there. If I'd have invested that money into, the S&P 500 or a Vanguard fund, that would now have actually made me around £36,000 extra on top over the last 3 years. Those 3 years have been really good performing years. So it would have significantly grew and I would have had more money than what I put in, but I would make the decision again. And I think the real lesson is, I can afford to buy anything, but not everything. We haven't moved home. We don't have, designer clothes. We don't buy ridiculous holidays. Although we've been to Disney, that is changing with the kids. But this was the one thing that I wanted. It was a sensible family car that we could use. I'm also went into this with my eyes open, thinking I'm going to keep this car for 10 years. So the depreciation really doesn't concern me too much. The car I absolutely love and I still do today. It does pretty much everything. So I think the lesson I took from this is you can buy anything, but not everything. So if there's things you want, then you can do it and still pursue early retirement and financial independence. And that was the thing for me. I spent my whole life wanting one. I got it and I certainly don't regret it. We can always make more money, but we can't get time again. So some of the special things that I want to do in my life, I'm absolutely going to do. That's very much inspired by Bill Perkins and Die With Zero. I'm now in a great position financially where I can afford to do these things. So yes, a lot of people might think it's been an absolute disaster and the worst financial decision I could make, but I would absolutely do it again.